Most people board a plane thinking the experience really begins once they sit down. But after years of watching flights closely, I've learned something different. The tone of the entire journey is often set in the first few quiet minutes after you step on board. That window matters more than people realize, especially for older travelers. I've seen two passengers take the same flight in similar seats under the same conditions, yet arrive completely differently. One steps off looking steady and refreshed. The other looks tense, sore, and worn down. The reason isn't comfort class, and it isn't chance. It comes down to what happens immediately after boarding, before the aircraft door closes. Airlines don't talk about this phase. There's no announcement for it. But people who fly regularly understand it well. Today, I'm sharing 13 things older travelers should always do right after boarding the plane. We'll start with the least obvious and finish with the most important. These are small actions, but they quietly protect comfort, dignity, and peace of mind. Even if you only fly a few times a year, getting these right can completely change how a flight feels. Let's begin. 15. Check lighting and window shades early. Airline cabins can have harsh lighting, overhead lights, reading lamps, and reflections from windows. Bright light can cause eye strain, headaches, and fatigue, especially on longer flights. As soon as you're seated, take a moment to adjust the lighting around you. If you prefer softer light, ask a flight attendant to dim the overhead reading lamp. If you're near a window, decide early whether you want the shade up or down. Changing it later, especially during cruise or turbulence, can be awkward. Proper lighting helps your eyes relax, reduces glare on screens, and makes your immediate space feel more comfortable. Older eyes are more sensitive to bright light and reflections, so making this adjustment early can prevent discomfort that only becomes worse over time. This small step doesn't take long, but it sets a calmer sensory environment for the rest of your flight. 14. Preview the in-flight menu or snacks early. Many passengers wait until drink or food service begins before thinking about what they might want, but older travelers benefit from planning this early. As soon as you're settled, take a quick look at the in-flight menu, if provided, or listen when the attendant begins describing available snacks and beverages. Deciding early helps you avoid hunger later, gives you time to ask for special dietary items sooner, and avoids feeling rushed or disappointed when the cart comes by. If you have specific dietary needs, low sodium, diabetic-friendly, gluten-free, etc., informing the flight attendant early increases your chances of getting what you need. Waiting until everyone else is already eating can make the process slower and more stressful for you. This isn't about eating immediately, it's about planning early so your body stays comfortable throughout the journey. 13. Settle mentally before the door closes. Many passengers take their seat, but their mind is still racing through the airport. They're replaying security, boarding lines, gate confusion, or worrying about what they might have forgotten. I notice this often. Their posture stays tight, their breathing remains shallow. They've sat down, but they haven't arrived. For older travelers, this moment matters more than most people realize. Once the aircraft door closes, freedom of movement drops sharply. Standing up, adjusting, or resetting becomes difficult. Comfort is much easier to establish early than to fix later. I once sat beside an older man who kept shifting in his seat even after boarding ended. When the door finally closed, he quietly said, "Now it feels too late." Nothing had changed physically. What changed was his sense of control. He never gave himself a moment to slow down when it still mattered. Taking 30 seconds to pause, breathe deeply, and visually register that you were safely on board sends a powerful signal to your nervous system. The body responds to that signal quickly. Muscles loosen, breathing steadies, the mind stops scanning for problems. This isn't about anxiety or fear, it's about timing. When mental calm comes early, physical comfort follows naturally. Flights feel quieter, less draining, and noticeably shorter. That single pause before the door closes sets the rhythm for everything that comes after. 12. Take a sip of water early. The cabin environment starts affecting your body almost as soon as you step on board. Even before the aircraft moves, the air is already dry, and your body begins adjusting to it. Most passengers wait for drink service, assuming it will come quickly. Sometimes it doesn't come at all. I've seen older travelers feel drained halfway through short flights and blame the seat or the length of the journey. Later, they realize they never drank anything after boarding. That early gap matters. A small amount of water helps your body stabilize in the cabin environment before dehydration sets in. You don't need to finish a bottle or make a big effort. A few small sips are enough to support circulation, steady blood pressure, and ease the transition into flight conditions. That first signal tells your body it's being supported. I make it a habit to drink water as soon as I settle in. I've noticed many flight attendants do the same when they get a moment. It's no coincidence. Early hydration reduces issues that show up later as stiffness, dry mouth, lightheadedness, or fatigue. For older travelers, the effects of dry air arrive faster and linger longer. Starting hydration early interrupts that process before it begins. A simple sip now often prevents discomfort hours later. It costs nothing, takes seconds, and pays off for the rest of the flight. 11. Silence notifications, not just ring volume. Many passengers lower their phone's volume and assume they've handled the distraction, but vibration alerts, message previews, and background buzzing still keep the body slightly alert, even when you're not consciously reacting to them. I've watched this play out more times than I can count. An older woman once sat beside me, glancing at her phone every time it vibrated. She appeared relaxed, but her posture stayed tense. When she finally silenced notifications completely, she leaned back and said she hadn't realized how draining it was. Airplanes already place the nervous system under mild stress through engine noise, movement, and unfamiliar sensations. Adding constant digital interruptions keeps your body in a state of low-level readiness when it doesn't need to be. Silencing notifications right after boarding creates a quieter mental environment. Breathing naturally slows, muscles soften, your body shifts out of alert mode and into rest mode. You aren't missing anything critical during climb. Messages, updates, and alerts will still be there later. People who travel often understand this. They reduce unnecessary stimulation early so the rest of the flight feels smoother and less tiring. Calm inputs lead to calm reactions. That small adjustment improves comfort far more than most passengers expect. 8. Confirm your bag is properly stowed. Overhead bins don't stay static once boarding ends. They're opened, closed, shifted, and reloaded more than most passengers realize. Bags move, weight shifts, and when something isn't positioned correctly, gravity does the rest. I've personally seen heavy carry-ons drop straight down when a bin was opened mid-flight. One came dangerously close to a passenger's head. That kind of impact can cause serious injury, especially to the neck and shoulders. Right after you take your seat, take a moment to look up and confirm your bag is secure. Ideally, wheels should face inward and heavier items should sit firmly, not at an angle. If anything looks unstable, ask for assistance immediately. Flight attendants prefer fixing these issues early before the cabin is locked into movement. Older travelers are more vulnerable to injuries from falling objects, even from short distances. A few seconds of awareness reduces risk for the entire flight. I once watched an older woman politely ask for help repositioning her bag. Another passenger reacted with impatience. Later, that same passenger's bag shifted forward when the bin was opened. Awareness always outperforms embarrassment. This isn't about being overly careful. It's about quietly protecting yourself before a preventable problem has a chance to happen. 9. Stretch ankles and calves while seated. Sitting still for long periods affects circulation, and the effects begin earlier than most people think. Simple ankle and calf movement right after boarding helps prepare your body before stiffness sets in. There's no need for obvious stretching or anything that draws attention. Slow ankle circles, gentle flexing, or subtle foot movement is enough. I often notice frequent flyers doing this quietly while others are still adjusting their bags. They understand something important. Circulation doesn't wait until cruising altitude. It starts the moment you sit down. I once asked an older traveler why he always moved his ankles early. He told me it kept his legs from feeling heavy later in the flight. He was right. Starting movement early reduces swelling, stiffness, and discomfort as time passes. Waiting until you feel tight or uncomfortable means the process has already begun. This habit matters on long flights, but it makes a difference even on short ones. It's simple, discreet, and effective. No one notices it, but your body responds. A few seconds of movement early helps you stand up later feeling steadier, lighter, and more comfortable when you arrive. 8. Organize the seat pocket or avoid it entirely. Seat pockets are responsible for more forgotten items than almost any other part of the cabin. Glasses, phones, documents, and earbuds are often left behind because passengers treat that pocket as a catch-all. Older travelers benefit from deciding immediately how they'll use it. Either place one clearly chosen item there or avoid the pocket altogether. Overfilled pockets hide objects, especially during rushed exits. I once watched an older man search frantically for his reading glasses after landing. He had placed them loosely in the seat pocket during boarding and completely forgotten. He only found them after most passengers had already left. That stress was unnecessary. Make the decision early and keep it simple. If you do use the pocket, check it deliberately before landing. Many experienced travelers avoid it entirely and keep essentials in one controlled location. Organization reduces pressure, especially when time is tight. A small choice made early prevents confusion later. Less clutter leads to fewer mistakes, and fewer mistakes make the entire journey calmer from start to finish. If these kinds of small details help you travel more comfortably, consider subscribing to Flight Decoder. This channel focuses on calm, practical travel habits that make flying easier, especially the things airlines don't clearly explain. New videos are added regularly for travelers who value comfort, control, and peace of mind. 7. Set air vent direction early. Air vents influence comfort far more than most passengers expect. Many people ignore them until they suddenly feel cold, dry, or irritated. Adjusting the vent early prevents that reaction cycle before it starts. As soon as you sit down, angle the airflow gently toward your upper body, not directly at your face. This reduces dry eyes, throat irritation, and chills during climb, when cabin conditions change quickly. I've watched passengers repeatedly adjust their vents mid-flight, never quite comfortable, constantly distracted. Doing it early avoids that frustration entirely. Flight attendants usually set their vents immediately after boarding when they have a moment. That habit exists for a reason. Cabin temperature and humidity shift rapidly after takeoff. Older travelers tend to feel those changes more strongly. Setting the vent early allows your body to adapt gradually instead of reacting after discomfort appears. This isn't about blasting cold air, it's about light, steady circulation. Once you find a comfortable position, leave it alone. Consistency helps your body relax. Small adjustments made early often lead to noticeably smoother, more comfortable flights. It's one of those quiet habits experienced travelers rely on, even if they never talk about it. 6. Sanitize armrests and tray table. Aircraft cabins are cleaned between flights, but the process is fast, not detailed. I've seen cleaning crews work under tight time pressure. They focus on speed, not deep sanitation. Armrests and tray tables are touched by hundreds of hands every day. A quick wipe right after boarding removes germs and residue that are otherwise easy to overlook. This is especially important for older travelers with sensitive skin or immune systems that don't tolerate exposure as easily. I once noticed an older couple calmly wiping their armrests while boarding wrapped up. Another passenger quietly laughed. 2 hours later, that same passenger asked them for a wipe. Small precautions often seem unnecessary until they aren't. Cleaning your space early also keeps your hands cleaner when handling food, medication, glasses, or devices later. It takes less than half a minute and improves comfort for the entire flight. This habit isn't about anxiety, it's about hygiene and control. Experienced travelers understand the difference. When your immediate space feels clean, your body relaxes more easily. A calm environment supports a calm mind, making the entire journey easier from start to finish. 5. Look at the nearest exit card. You don't need to study the safety card or memorize instructions. All you need is a brief sense of orientation. Knowing where the nearest exits are reduces tension, even when nothing goes wrong. I've seen anxious passengers visibly calm down after a quick glance at exit locations. Awareness gives the body a sense of control. Older travelers in particular tend to feel more at ease when they understand their surroundings. I once sat beside a woman who was clearly uneasy during boarding. After she looked at the safety card, her breathing slowed and her hands relaxed. Later, she said that simply knowing where the exits were made her feel safer. This takes only a few seconds and costs nothing. You're not expecting an emergency, you're just giving your mind information. When the mind feels informed, the body follows. Airlines repeat safety announcements, but many passengers mentally tune them out. Taking a moment to orient yourself early, on your own terms, works better. Calm often comes from understanding. This small habit helps your body settle into the flight and remain steadier during turbulence or unexpected delays. 4. Adjust the headrest before takeoff. Many airplane headrests tilt, fold, or slide, yet most passengers ignore them. Older travelers often experience neck pain later without realizing it began during boarding. Adjusting the headrest early supports your neck before muscles tighten. Once discomfort starts, it's harder to correct. Early adjustment allows your body to settle naturally into a comfortable position. I once helped an older woman adjust her headrest shortly after she sat down. Midway through the flight, she smiled and said it was the first time she'd flown without neck pain. That small change completely shifted her experience. Take a moment to see how the headrest moves and test it gently. It should cradle your head without forcing it forward. Once you find a supportive position, leave it alone. This reduces strain during takeoff, turbulence, and long periods of sitting. Neck discomfort often spreads into the shoulders and back, making the flight feel longer than it is. Preventing that strain early is far easier than trying to fix it later. Experienced travelers adjust first and relax afterward. It's a quiet habit with lasting comfort benefits, especially on longer flights or for sensitive necks. 3. Place one essential item under the seat. Before the plane moves, decide which single item must stay within reach. Medication, glasses, important documents, or your phone belong under the seat in front of you, not in the overhead bin. I've seen turbulence make overhead access impossible for extended periods. Passengers become anxious when they realize something important is out of reach. Making this decision early prevents that stress entirely. I once watched an older man repeatedly ask when he could stand because his medication was stored above. The seatbelt sign stayed on longer than expected. 2. Check the seatbelt length immediately. Seatbelt comfort is essential, yet many passengers wait too long to check. Older travelers should test the length as soon as they sit down. If you require an extender, quietly ask a flight attendant before taxi. Early requests are handled professionally, and it avoids the stress and embarrassment of struggling once the plane is moving. I've seen travelers fumble under the belt, hoping no one notices, letting tension build throughout the flight. 1. Pause before sitting. The very first action after boarding sets the tone for the entire journey. Rushing into your seat risks twisted knees, missed belts, dropped items, and unnecessary strain. The plane isn't moving yet. Take a moment. I've watched seasoned older travelers pause, breathe, and then sit with intention. They appear calm, deliberate, and in control. Others hurry, fumble, and immediately start the flight tense and uncomfortable. I once observed an older woman twist awkwardly while rushing into her seat, spending the entire flight stiff. On her next trip, she paused and positioned herself carefully. She later said, "That tiny pause made all the difference.